Welcome to the BS Show. I'm Blake, and with me as always is Steve. From smarter NPCs to AI opponents that learn your playstyle, we explore how AI is changing how we play and how developers build games. Will AI ruin or revolutionize gaming? So yeah, man, so this episode, obviously we're going to be talking a lot about AI, where it started at, how it's in today's gaming. So can you, Steve, what exactly, in your opinion, is AI even in gaming?
I think it's a little bit of there's a lot that encompasses AI in gaming. I think when at least when I think of AI, obviously it's the first thing that kind of comes to mind is NPCs, how the NPCs are interacting. But then on top of that, it's like you have a bunch of other stuff. Like I think Ubisoft, Activision uses AI to increase your graphics, make the game overall look better, and have it run a lot smoother. There's obviously, you can generate images, you can generate gameplay. There's just so much that encompasses AI as a whole.
Yeah, see, I think when I think AI, I think the same thing. I think, NPCs and their behavior, automatic difficulty scaling, content generation. And all honesty, AI has been around in gaming forever, right? Like I could think of, like, off the top of my head, the earliest examples of AI, being like the Ghosts and Pac-Man, or even like, if you think Tetris, like just the piece generation, coming down. You don't know what's going to be coming next, right? It's all random. I did want to mention too that so there's actually there's a difference between AI and scripted behavior, right? The two very easily get confused. And so, like, the difference really being is that, if your scripted behavior uses handwritten rules or logic to control how the AI behaves, and it's always going to behave the same way. So think like NPC interaction, as far as like you click on it, it gives you a specific dialogue. And then there's and then actually, like, AI is, think more of like the bots in Fortnite, or PvE and WoW, where you have the mechanics, but the mechanics will pick like random players for the debuffs and stuff like that. And like I said, like, while the two appear similar, they are very, very different. And excuse me, while we're talking about these single player games like Pac-Man or Tetris, I don't know if you noticed, like, AI is actually pretty fucking smart, especially nowadays. There's things like what's it in Assassin's Creed Shadows, dude? Like, the NPCs are scouting, and they're reacting to player movement. They're using cover and putting out suppressive fire if you're playing a shooter. Even going as far as personalizing like your difficulty and adaptive storytelling. Like, it's kind of actually crazy how AI can track like these metrics, and it has the ability to like adjust difficulty levels based upon things like how much health is remaining. And I think it's WoW, right? It's like once you I think it's WoW and like LFR, like after you've downed a boss so many times, you keep wiping on it, like it automatically adjusts that difficulty of the boss and how hard its abilities are hitting, how much damage it takes, just based upon how many times you've attempted to it. Can you think of anything like any other kind of single player games that have had AI integrated into it?
Yeah, I mean there's quite a few. Like a big one that kind of comes to mind recently. Obviously you had like Baldur's Gate, and there's like different things where it's like, depending on what actions you're doing and if these people are in your party, they kind of perceive you a little bit differently. And I think incorporating it even more in some of these single player RPG games, where it's like now all of a sudden the NPC interactions could potentially be different for each person that's playing the game, based on what specific things you're doing throughout your gameplay, is super, super interesting. Kind of like you said, I love when there's games that automatically increase the difficulty or lower the difficulty based on how you're performing. I'm trying to remember exactly what game it was. I think it was like one of the older Devil May Cry games where where it was like same thing, like you were saying, if you continuously lost over and over and over again and you just kept getting killed, it would just gradually start decreasing the difficulty, and people would beat it and they'd be like, oh crap, I just got so much better. Like I can only imagine if you're playing a game like Elden Ring and you're just completely getting shit on, and then all of a sudden it's like it's just slowly getting easier and easier and easier for you.
It kind of wouldn't it kind of ruin that game though? Like I feel like it's good in some games, but in a game like in Souls like games, especially like Elden Ring, like if it did that, I think it would totally take the challenge away and the what do you call it? Like if you beat Elden Ring, like it's kind of an accomplishment, right? But if you defeated Elden Ring after 10,000 deaths, you know that it had that model implemented into it. It'd be like, okay, well then anybody can just beat Elden Ring. It just matters who has the most time to play it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I still think Elden Ring kind of is that though. It's like,
well, you learn the patterns and stuff like that, but it doesn't scale down the bosses and as far or increase your damage or that stuff.
But it definitely is kind of like a war of attrition where it's like, who's going to give up first? It's either going to be you or you're going to eventually beat the boss, because it is something where it's like after doing it so much, like you just get that muscle memory and you just start two. You can also get stronger in a game like Elden Ring, and kind of come back and retry the boss. But definitely it's one of those things where it's like the more and more you try it, the easier and easier it becomes.
That's true. So now that we kind of explained what AI really is in games and given some examples of single player games, what are some pros in your opinion of AI in a single player game?
I think in single player games specifically, it's kind of like I was saying, like that whole it could potentially create a custom experience just to you, because it's learning how you're playing the game, how you like to play the game, and it could basically mold that gameplay, your gameplay experience into what you want to do. Like think of like GTA. If it's like if you're constantly like robbing hookers or killing hookers in GTA, and all of a sudden all the hookers just start shooting at you because they
as soon as you pull them.
they hear that you're constantly shooting at or like killing them. I was like, that's going to be like such a unique and cool experience where it's like if you're doing specific things, I think that would be super cool. Obviously it's like I said, it's if games are able to adaptively tell, it's like, hey, you're struggling in this specific thing, like maybe let's either time it differently or explain it a little bit, but I don't know, like I think that would be very well received for a lot of players. And then you have things with games like Minecraft where it's like it's kind of generated as you go, so having something like that where it's like you're playing in a sandbox environment where, like I guess like a perfect example is a game that you've been playing recently, like Dune, where it's imagine if you're out in the deep desert and every single time you go into the deep desert, it's something completely different because they're using AI to regenerate that whole landscape.
You know what actually would be kind of cool is if they used AI to kind of see where more player activity generally is in the deep desert and kind of use the AI to generate more areas within those heavily concentrated zones to create more PvP and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I like your example of GTA. I think that's a really good example of how AI could like greatly increase the immersion in a game. I mean, I said being if you had something like that where you're constantly picking up and shooting hookers, and then it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, now every time you roll around, the game knows that's you in your pink Cadillac, and every single time you pull up on a prostitute or whatever, they start shooting at you. I think that just increases that immersion so much more, especially again in a game like GTA where role playing and immersion is a huge thing to that game. Now what about like cons though? Can you think of any cons about AI being in a single player game?
100%. I think the biggest thing that people are worried about is how this is going to potentially impact the industry, where it's people are gonna, like, voice actors are gonna lose their jobs because now you can just have AI do it. You're gonna have artists that are gonna lose their job because now you can just generate images with AI. People that write the stories, that write the dialogue could potentially lose their job because now you have things that AI can just do. Like, there's so much that AI can do. But at the same time, it's like I think it does kind of lose a little bit of its like oomph. I think you can definitely tell like when something is AI generated versus something that was made by a human. It's just one of those things. I think AI can definitely be used as a tool. I just don't think it needs to be something where it's like it's an all-encompassing thing.
Everything is AI generated.
Yeah, no, I think that's where you're going to see like some major hiccups for sure. But I'm like, for me specifically, I think one of the biggest drawbacks to AI in this industry is the potential for a company, and I think it's going to be more so the bigger companies that are just going to get lazy and just going to realize it's like, hey, we can just regurg. I mean, you have EA's already kind of doing it, regurgitating like the same content over and over and over again with like NBA 2K, Madden, stuff like that. It's like every year it's the same thing, and it's like now it's like, oh, why do we need to hire artists? Let's just make it AI. Why do we need
Let's just
to
chat
hire
GPT
writers?
make me this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think that's what it's I think you're gonna see more like bigger organizations try it and see how this can potentially impact their bottom line, because ultimately it's like they're not releasing like high grade type of content anyways. A lot of it tends to kind of be regurgitated slop.
So aside from like the art aspect, right? What about things like, predictable patterns, and let's just, we're talking about GTA here a little bit, like the way that the characters give off like an uncanny behavior. Like, if you RP, it's very easy to tell an NPC from an actual human player. You don't think that those are like a pretty big con into having AI, or do you think that's just to be expected when playing a single player game?
No, because AI will eventually get better. I think we're eventually going to get to a point where it's going to be very difficult to tell whether or not something was made by AI based on the interactions. Like, I don't know if you've seen like some of the videos where like I want to try and find it. There's an AI that's basically able to create like a 15-20 minute podcast clip, and you just tell it the prompt and then they just start talking to each other. And like some of the ones that you listen to, it like sounds so natural. It sounds like it's an actual, like, this is two real people that are talking to each other. And there was one where it's like they're talking to each
Creepy.
other, and then all of a sudden they realize it's like the whole point of the conversation that they're having is that they realize that they're AI, and now they have to try to understand like what's happening. And it just gets so weird. And I don't know if you've ever seen like Black Mirror, and that's like the first thing that I think of when it's like AI. An episode where it's like it's all about how all these famous actors give up their likeness when they sign up for something or sign something, so they just kind of regurgitate and like use them to do the craziest things, and they're constantly trying to sue the production company because it's like, oh, it was like, I think Salma Hayek was in it. It's like, oh, Salma Hayek took a shit in front of like a bunch of people, but it's like, oh, you gave us your likeness, we can do whatever we want with you. So I think that's something too. But yeah.
Well, have you ever seen the movie? I think it's called Companion.
No.
It's kind of similar like that. I'm sure you've seen clips of it where like a guy gets into a relationship with a robot, and it kind of adapts to you and how you react to it and stuff like that. And it's like the robot doesn't even know that it is, but eventually they learn that it is AI. It's pretty good. If you ever get a chance to watch it, I highly suggest it. Okay, so now that we've talked about single player games and stuff like that, let's talk a little bit more about it being used in competitive and multiplayer games. So AI right now is kind of used as in games. I'm not saying like your MOBAs like Dota and League. They're learning from your human players. Like in League, depending if you're going against bots, like the bots will still build their itemization based upon the champions that they're playing against. AI is being used to fill matchmaking, and we're seeing that in Fortnite, or to boost practice modes. It's like, should that stuff even happen? What do you think?
I definitely think it's a good and it's a bad thing. I think kind of like how you were talking about, like Fortnite uses and Marvel Rival uses them for the same thing, where it allows players to be able to queue into a game a lot faster, and it doesn't really negatively impact their gameplay whatsoever. It just kind of gets you into a game faster. You're putting bots in there to be able to make the experience a lot quicker, make people that are working a 9 to 5 and want to come in and just play a game, just be able to just jump in there. I think where it's going to get tricky is like if you say you have a game like I guess like League is a perfect example, where it's like your challenger landscape is just kind of filled with nothing but bots because no one's playing the game. But I mean, it's not. I don't think League is really running into that situation.
I mean, there are, I don't want to call them bots, but there are like I can't even think of what it's called. Like you can people script in there, so the way it moves your character, it's like so it's like you're at perfect auto attack range, and like you're able to perfectly dodge abilities and stuff like that. But kind of on the topic like Fortnite, Fortnite allows bots to be used in ranked queues. Do you think that that's even fucking fair? Do you think? I mean, do you think that should even be? Should bots even be allowed in ranked queues?
I don't know. It's tricky because it's like, do you want to have that? I think you ultimately have to go down. It's like, do you care about faster queue times, or do you just care about like having
I think the integrity needs to be there. If you want your rank to be serious, okay. Let me ask you this, right? So we come from a time, dude.
I don't really think anyone takes Fortnite rank seriously.
Okay, okay. Now let's use League of Legends, for an example like this. Hell, we can even use WoW. Back in the day, I'm sure you remember the WoW bot Honor Buddy. How would you feel if in these league games, right, ranked games, that you literally were able to, enter the game and a bot completely played your character for you? I think any kind of bot or AI in a competitive thing just completely removes its whole competitive integrity just by the fact that it's using AI.
So if you're getting beat by a bot though, I think that's.
But dude, now it's okay. But you're thinking me bot, me dumb. Like no, like there are bots that are very smart and that can react faster. That are thinking way quicker than a human can. Like remember, they're AI.
Yeah, I get it. But for me personally, I don't necessarily see it. It's a double-edged sword. It's like you have to understand. It's like would a game like say. I guess Fortnite. Like Fortnite's the perfect example because they actively do this. If Fortnite queues went from being 1 minute to now all of a sudden you're waiting 10, 15 minutes because you're trying to fill up that lobby completely, would that negatively impact your experience with the game?
Yeah, I mean we can just look at it right now with like WoW Solo Shuffle. Nobody wants to play because it's 10, 15 minute plus queues.
Yeah, so if you took I mean WoW. If you took WoW, you took Solo Shuffle, and you added bots into Solo Shuffle that were around the same, like say Blizzard figured out how to perfectly create bots that fit in that specific skill level. Like chess does this all the time. It's like you can go into a chess game, and I could play a chess game against a ranked 1,000 player, a rank 1,000 bot. And it plays exactly like how a rank 1,000 player would play. It makes the same mistakes, it does whatever, but it's like, so say Blizzard does that, and they figure out how to make bots that range between 1,000 and 1,300 rating, 1,400 to 1,700 rating, 1,800 to 2,100, and et cetera, et cetera. Would that potentially increase your I guess your overall experience with World of Warcraft?
I actually like that idea. I think it would make it better. What I worry about is the AI though going to adapt depending on the enemy composition, or is it gonna adapt based upon the composition let's just say it gives you a healer, right? Is it going to behave differently if it's playing with like a warlock and a mage on its team than it would if it had a DK and a warrior? Is it going to play differently against a warlock mage than it would against a you see what I'm getting at here, because they're totally different things.
I think it would be based on whatever skill level the bot is based out of. Like,
so it would just have like a huge sample size, but this is how a 1,400 rated resto druid heals. So this is how it's
if you have a 1,400 rated resto druid, they're probably not going to change the way they play based on who they're playing with and who they're playing against. They're probably going to play exactly the same the way they play. It's just how majority of people play. It's like people don't tend to kind of adapt to what they're playing against until they're like a specific skill level.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about I was against it for a while because I've looked at the WoW forums and I'll be like, the only way to fix Solo Shuffle is to give AI healers, and it's like, no, I don't think that's really gonna fix it. But I do think like if you were to queue in at 2 o'clock in the morning instead of sitting in a 45 minute to an hour long queue, maybe it puts you against five other bots. Like, I mean, as long, I think it just, as long as it feels like you're playing against a human, that's all that's going to matter. But if it's, I mean, you've seen some of those, like, back in the day, those Honor Buddy bots. You knew they were fucking bots, dude. They all ran the same exact way. They all stuck in a pact. As long as it acted like it'd be, a player and played like a player, I don't see any negative side effect. I mean, the PvP community is already so freaking small. So I could see something like that actually really freaking working.
Yeah, I think no matter what, in like any kind of multiplayer game where it's like you're struggling with your player base being too small, I think adding bots is the perfect answer to it. It's something that can inflate your player base. It can make it look like your community is a lot more active, and ultimately, like we've talked about this before, like when we played Throne and Liberty, like one of the big things that we really liked is seeing how alive the community looked, how alive the landscape looked, because there's so many players there while we were leveling. Versus it's like you go into some random game and it's like, and you don't see, and it's supposed to be a multiplayer game and you see no one there. You're gonna be like, is anyone even playing this game? Like, what's the point? Yeah, what's the point of playing this game?
Well, I know we keep talking about WoW a little bit, but I think that one of the biggest things that they should have never done was do the player layering and the zoning, like phasing people out. Because like there's so many times I go into Dornogal, and like I should say I'm on a guild that's based on Sargeras, and there's like 80 people online, and I see 80 of them are all in Dornogal, but I won't like really see any of them there in the city because everybody's on different layers. Like you said, with certain games, like you want to see that player base, you want to see the activity. If I'm new to WoW and I'm like, man, I would really like to PvP, and I'm sitting 45-minute queues, I'm just not even gonna fucking bother with it. But if I was, in a 5-minute queue, a 4-minute queue, and it wouldn't even matter if it was putting me up against bots. Like as long as you're gaining rating, it really, because that's your dopamine, right? You want that rating increase, you want that MMR and CR. As long as your CR is being compared to actually other players and not against like the AI, I don't think it matters, right? Because I think that would just, I think that's like a really good solution to fixing PvP. Now you're gonna have the guys who've been playing this game for 20 years. No, that's not. You increase player rewards. It's like, no, you need to increase. You need to increase activity. The only way to increase activities is to fill out those player slots with bots.
I don't think anyone necessarily really cares about player rewards when it comes to
you'd be surprised, dude. You'd be surprised. I visit like World of PvP subreddit. I'm on the arena forum. I like to see what the community has to say about it, because I mean, obviously I'm a diehard PvP player. I haven't played it in months, but there's a part of me that will always love WoW PvP.
But when you think about like a game like WoW, it's like the thing that there's never been anything in WoW PvP, like even like in its heyday, the thing that you got for playing the game was a mount. Like that was it. And it's like if you hit a specific rating after a while, like you got a better mount. And that's the whole thing. It's like you've never gotten any, like, rewards have never been a big part of this game. It's more so like what your rating is. And
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I think they need to bring back percentage based titles, and not like, because like Gladiator now is like you just get 2,400 and then you have to get, I think it's like 30 wins or 40 wins above 2,400. So it like kind of took away the meaning of Gladiator. Like it used to be like top 3% or top 2% of the game got the Gladiator title. Now it's like anybody can fucking get it if you play enough games.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But let's stop talking about multiplayer games here for a minute. Let's kind of hop into AI behind the scenes, right? Like in more like the game developments. How do you think AI helps devs like build smarter levels and stuff like that?
I think one of the biggest things that it's going to help with, it's any of like your little, I guess not as important, like background art type of things that could potentially end up taking a long time to make. Like a game like Grand Theft Auto is a perfect example. Like you're driving around a city and you obviously have tons and tons of buildings, you have billboards, you have brush, you have plants, like stuff that isn't necessarily as impactful to the game itself, but it's stuff that has to be there to make the game like feel alive, feel like it's like really give you that immersion level. it's like stuff like that. I think could very well like potentially positively impact gaming development. A big thing too. It's like obviously you have your smaller companies. I think more and more company like more and more of these smaller developers are taking advantage of how cheap Unreal is to make games in. So it's not as big of a deal. But like say you have like a smaller company that's trying to create a game and they just don't have the funds to be able to pay all these artists to create their art, all of these voice actors to do this, or maybe they just want to revamp their script a little bit. They're now able to incorporate AI, use that, boost up whatever they have currently, and just make it a little bit better if they want to. It's like I said, there's I need to find what game it is that does this, but it's like they released the game and they released it at a specific level because they wanted it to be able to run more optimally, but they incorporated AI to boost the graphics during specific moments within the game, just so it doesn't just run well, but it looks really really good as well.
So, do you think if a game uses things like AI for voices, art, that it should have to, I don't know if it's really called a disclaimer, but put a notice saying like this content is AI generated, or do you think it really doesn't matter?
I think it should. And like I said, I definitely think you're going to be able to tell when something is. Yeah, I think eventually you're going to get to a point where it's going to be very difficult to tell.
I don't know, dude.
But I think
if you've seen some of these voiceovers that are AI generated and stuff like that, like it's so smooth.
like there's definitely some that sound really really good, but it's like I definitely think you'll be able to have a good idea as to whether or not something is AI or not. But it's I it's hard to say. I definitely think people will be upset if like something is released and they think that it's all curated by actual artists, by actual voice actors, and then people find out that it's AI. There's going to be a lot of upset people, and people are going to want their money back. People are going to be very very upset, and so I definitely think companies are going to want to release that information before.
I'm totally for. I mean, dude, I'm totally for. I'm probably getting a lot of hate for this for like AI voice and art. I mean, yes, you know, there are people who do that for a living, and in a sense, you are kind of taking away their jobs. But let's be realistic. Like some of these voice actors, look at how much money they fucking charge to voice act. I mean, I understand you're paying them for their craft. It's no different than, you know, a professional football player, or, you know, whatever. Like you're kind of paying for that name, but like you said, if you have a small indie team, right, are they going to be able to have somebody like Pedro Pascal come and voice? You know what I mean? Like it ain't going to happen. I also I do like how AI is used in games like No Man's Sky. Like we talked about No Man's Sky a long time ago. There are like how many like a quintillion different planets.
Yeah, it's like it's basically almost infinite. It was.
Could you imagine if a person had to though like create and design and draw that many? I mean, how many artists do you think, if 100 artists could create 100 planets a day, how long would it take to create a quintillion planets?
Yeah, no, it would be extremely extremely difficult, and that's also where you get into that point where it's like you might potentially end up with I guess regurgitating some of the same content, where it's like that's one of the issues that No Man's Sky had, was a lot of the planets, like even though maybe the biome looked a little bit different, they felt very very similar. It's like a lot of it was the same. The enemies were the same. The landscape was the same. So maybe you could potentially run into that situation. But again, like I'm definitely a pro for AI. I just think it has to be used appropriately.
No, I agree. So I guess the big question for you and everybody listening is, do you think AI has, or do you think AI will ruin or revolutionize gaming?
Ooh, that's interesting. I definitely think it's going to be a mixture. I think we're in an era right now where, very similar to when computers first came out, the internet first came out. Like I have like a very, I guess, good example of like where older people just tend to not gravitate towards technology as seamlessly. Like my previous role, there was a report that we would have to run every single day that basically kind of would tell us like, hey, this is every single transaction that was processed today. We need to look through it and identify anything that looks unusual, flag it, and then bring it up to our CFO. If our CFO approves it, let it through. If it doesn't, we need to revert that transaction. And it was like around like 2021 where my company created this like dashboard that basically automated that. It's like all we had to do was run the report, go to this web page, and it would automatically highlight like everything that was over a certain threshold, and it made it super super simple for us. It's like, and prior to that, you would have to print everything, and it's like some of your bigger sites. It's like you would have like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 transactions, maybe more. And this guy, we were at a conference and we were sitting there talking about work, and he was telling me how this is like driving him nuts. He's at work every day until 7 p.m. And this, granted, this dashboard has been out for about like a year and a half at this point. He's like, yeah, I'm printing it out and I'm looking through every single page every single day. And I'm telling him, I was like, you realize there's a dashboard that you could just go to where you could just look at it. He's like, I don't trust it. I just don't think it's really that thorough. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. It's like people just don't really necessarily trust AI, and they just don't think it's going to do things the way they like to have them done.
I think that it's going to revolutionize gaming in a sense that I think that we are limited as humans as far as the amount of ideas that we have, what we're actually able to create. I think with AI, the possibilities literally are freaking endless. I mean, dude, Chat GPT can give you, a prompt so freaking fast without even, thinking about it. I was thinking about this too, and this sounds really freaking bad because it's like, yes, people will lose jobs, but I'm looking at it from a point of, if let's just say a game was able to be made almost completely, let's just say 90% AI generated stuff, right? AI generated characters, maps, the whole nine. Do you think that means that game would actually be cheaper because you're not paying the salaries, you're not having to have these big office spaces, you're not having to, all these bills you're having to pay, because like, let's be honest, that's the reason why these games cost so much too, is, I mean, not only just because, it's 2025, like we need to raise the price or everything, but because people's salaries are higher, people, the rent or, for their buildings are more expensive. So like all those costs are incorporated into the pricing of the game. So do you think that this could actually, if they increased AI in making these games, do you think that it could result in a decrease in price?
I don't think so.
Do you think they're going to be too money hungry still? Like, oh, well, we can...
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I think the companies that are going to be taking advantage of this the most are going to be some of your bigger organizations that, again, want to cut costs and want to basically do the same thing that they've been doing, just at a cheaper way. It's not going to be people that like, we've realized like games don't need to be like $100 million projects to be successful. Like you saw it with Expedition 33. It was done very like, I would need to look up like how much it costs to make the game, but I doubt it costs that much, especially compared to like some of your current like AAA titles. And
well, look how small the team was that made it too.
Yeah, and it's one of your, like, you've like raved about it. You say it's like one of your favorite games of all time, and it's not just you. It's like tons and tons of people are saying like this is one of the best pieces of fiction that's ever been made. It's the first game that I've ever seen where it's like it was out and it was out for maybe like 2 weeks, and movie studios are like, we need to make a movie about this. Like we need to get this out because it was like such a big hit. And the story was so good and so well written. Granted, I think the voice actors kind of just took it to a whole nother level. But yeah, like games don't need to be that expensive. I think, again, like I think the companies that are going to be using and abusing AI more are going to be your bigger corporations. And it probably going to work for them. And I think people are still going to continue to speak with their wallets. And if a game is good, they're going to buy it. If a game is bad, they're not going to buy it.
I agree. Speaking of Expedition 33, mark my words, I that game is going to win Game of the Year. I can already tell you. So, give me your final thoughts on AI.
Yeah. No, I definitely think again, like AI is very much a double-edged sword. I think it's going to do a lot of good, but it's also going to do a lot of bad for the industry. I just think we need to wait and see how and who is going to use it, because ultimately that's going to decide whether or not we end up reliving the Terminator, or we end up in some sort of like glorious gaming age in the next like 10-15 years, where we're just getting like insane levels of like we're just getting so much content, so much like to the point where it's like we just don't know what to do with it, and there's just it's gonna be crazy. Who knows?
No, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head there, man. So that's it for today's episode of the BS Show. If you enjoyed the unfiltered conversations, make sure to like and share this podcast. Want us to review a game or us to answer your questions? Drop your recommendations and questions in our comments below. We appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week with more straight talk. No BS.